if you're like, what the heck does that mean? I don't know either. We'll kind of figure it out with each other. I have some notes on a book, and we're kind of going, a few chapters at a time and discussing it. And then I hope to start another version of this with streamer people or with YouTube people where we'll kind of get together and do like a Socratic discussion where we go around the group and talk about some stuff that we liked in the book, and then we move to like an open discussion about it and maybe take some questions or something from chat. All that in due time. For now, for today, I'm just going to go through the introductory chapter and chapter 1 for a book called Range by David Epstein. I'll have that ready in a second. Yeah, talk to you in a bit. I'm going to play some music for you in the meantime. Let's see here. You know what? I think I'm just going to play non-Twitch safe music. It's probably okay. Enjoy.
Uptown, what I wanna do inside, I got a lot to make it all in my mind, and I never thought that I'd lose, I'd choose acid like I feel it on my skin. Often I don't know where I wanted to begin. Often I don't know what I wanted to do. Off kilter like wow, what I wanted in you. Doing it for all the love that I get. All I wanna do is tell you how I don't feel it. Doing it for all the love that I get. All I wanna do is tell you how I don't know. Wait another day and then I'll make that hit. Yes, you know I never hold back. Whipping up a beat in 20 seconds, kid. Yes, you know I'm making it slap. Uptown doing just what I like. All I wanna do is tell you how much how I feel when I'm near you. All I do when I see you, I want to be with you. I know what I need to come out when I'm feeling the rhythm. You and me were locking our step. I can feel you get a bit nervous. Was it too much eye contact? I know I love you cause you televise the things about me I despise. I wish I lived in confidence so I could be that sexy bitch.
It felt like love, it felt like love, it felt like love.
I've been a mess, blame it on stress. Watching my step, but not making friends. I'm better alone, I'll stay at home where I belong. Stuck in my head, I'm full of regret for things that I've said and things that I didn't. I could never say sorry enough. Am I sorry enough? I didn't even know what to think when I stepped outside. The sun was blinding my old soul, it felt like crying. I didn't even know what to think when I stepped outside. The sun was blinding my old soul, it felt like crying. Yeah, it felt like love. It felt like love. It felt like love. And I think that I've had enough love. It felt like love. It felt like love. And I think that I've had enough. Red wine on the carpet, still fighting over nonsense. By now I know the process. You get mad and put your heart in your pocket. It goes from sad to hate quick till we lost it. Shit. Screaming, crying, fighting, losing sight till we're throwing blind punches. Can't see right from wrong, we can hardly function. And we both knew better, went way past just having some bad weather. And it's too bad when we both really thought that it might just last. And we both knew better, went way past just having some bad weather. And it's too bad when we both really thought that it might just. I didn't even know what to think when I stepped outside. The sun was blinding my old soul, it felt like crying. I didn't even know what to think when I stepped outside. The sun was blinding my old soul, it felt like crying. Yeah, it felt like love. It felt like love. It felt like love. And I think that I've had enough love. It felt like love. It felt like love. And we both knew better. Went way past just having some bad weather. And it's too bad when we both really thought that it might just last. And we both knew better. Went way past just having some bad weather. And it's too bad when we both really thought that it might just last. And it's too bad when we both really thought that it might just last. And it's too bad when we both really thought that it felt like love. It felt like love. It felt like love. And I think that I've had enough love. It felt like love. It felt like love. And I think that I've had enough. Felt like love.
No sleep for the sick, been staying up too late, draining out the chemicals, trying not to make mistakes. Little do they know that any given day I'll expose.
Y'all doing all right? Just got done reading chapter 1 at Barnes & Noble. Definitely going to pick up the book next time I get paid. Dope. I'll be ready in a sec. I'm basically just finishing up some like final thoughts on chapter 1, and then I think we'll jump into it. So we're in a similar boat. You're good. Fuck, I forgot to do the homework. Am I in trouble? No, you're good. This week we're only going to go through the introduction in chapter 1 for this book, and that's intentional, so that if anybody didn't catch the promos on Twitter or Discord, which, by the way, if you're not already on those, go ahead and get on them. If you do ! Discord or ! Twitter, then that'll bring up the links to that, and then you can follow there to make sure that you're up to date. You can get a heads up, more than the day of. But in any event, we're just going to go through the very, very, very beginning of the book. That way, this week, this will sit on the YouTube for a week or two, and then we can, do 2 to 4 more chapters after that, and so on and so forth until we finish the book. But yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about it. You're probably good. Anywho, I'm going to let the music go back, and I'm just going to finish up my notes. I'll be ready in like 5 to 10 minutes. Talk to you guys soon.
All their hypocrisies and let out my rage. Oh, tell me this, if you can say it to the public, why can't you say that shit to your kids? Don't act like money's not the factor. You're an actor, and it would blow everybody's mind if they could see just what lies behind. No choice. I can't catch my breath, been working to the bone, dotting all the I's and crossing every T I own. This ain't pulling thread, no baby, this is war. I'll be the card to end their cash machine. They'll rue the day the hound came to their door. The real crooks ain't wearing ski masks. No, they're walking around in suits. They feed us lies in American rapping. They're just acting, and it would blow everybody's mind if they could see just what lies behind the velvet curtain, the office I've got my voice. Baby, I'm the bad guy, and it's a game. You can tell me why I'll never change. Oh, take it from me, never believe anything I say to you. Any other time she is a dame. Don't believe in love, so you keep it your name. Oh, take it from me, never believe anything I say to you. Baby, you're the hell I need. Only one way to figure it out. So I'm lonely, you need me. Hell will never let us down. Maybe you're the hell I need. Only one way to figure it out. I'm lonely, you need me. Hell will never let us down. I never knew you were alone, you know what I would do for you to fix me now. And the only way you wanted me was here to believe. I only wanted you when you were around. But you kept at me at the bottom of the hole that I'm in. I got a way to bring you down. And when I'm ready for another honest fight, I'm gonna shove her in the hole that I've been in, digging it out. Maybe you're the hell I need. Only one way to figure it out. So I'm lonely, you need me. Hell will never let us down. Maybe you're the hell I need. Only one way to figure it out. I'm lonely, you need me. Hell will never let us down. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I need to see those hands together. Yes, now I need to see you move with me. All right. Now I want to hear you sing to me. And you better get these words right. Maybe you're the hell I need. Only one way to figure it out. So I'm lonely, you need me. Hell will never let us down. Maybe you're the hell I need. Only one way to figure it out. I'm lonely, you need me. Hell will never let us down.
If I gave away all the stuff that I had away, and I'll never express myself, and I'll always expect some pain coming out of my shoulder, gash in the middle of molder. When I grow up, I'm growing to a big gray pushing over. When I know what I could do, I listen up into you. I hope that you see me grow. I want to see you too. I know I'm out here outside. I wish I had to arrive under the night and with you. I had it all in my life. I don't want to listen here. I'm moving my hips like wine and glass.
As ready as I'm gonna get. I kind of want to re-listen to the whole chapter 1 again, but that's ridiculous. And Audible only lets me go up to 3.5 speed, so... Alright, let's turn that off. Okay, let me switch my headphones and we're good to go. Never let you down. One night and one more time. Thanks for the memories, even though they weren't so good. It tastes like you. All right. That's not the right one. Hello. What's going on, children? How are you all doing? Ugh. I was not feeling like waking up this morning. I was this close to just being like, hey guys, how about we do book club at 2 p.m. instead of 11 a.m.? Boy, that light is bright. How is everybody doing? Is the light okay, or should I turn it down? Fish emote. Oh, there's a lot of stuff going on in here. How come I don't think I got your fish emotes. Oh, I did get your fish emotes. I just missed them. Dang. I need a shave. Look at this. I got some Mr. Miyagi going on here. Light down a tad, I would say. Okay. And there would blow everybody's mind. Look, you can see what's living underneath my skin. Oh, goodness. Here, let's fix my hair as well. Go for the JB look here. It's 2 p.m. for me. Lol. Interesting. Well, I think the light isn't at an acceptable level, unless it should be brought down further, in which case I can. Aside from that, the mic looks to be okay. Just doing all my final checks. Okay, mic is good. Good God, I don't like the way my hair is parting today. Hold on, I need to brush my hair. I think I left my brush at the office because, like I said, I was doing all that recording for the video, and I kind of, I think you're looking good. Well, wonderful. Hey, that's great. How is everybody? I've asked that like a dozen times. Everybody seems like they're doing well. I'm happy to hear that some of the chatters have read the book. Honestly, when you've been doing education stuff on Twitch as long as I have, which is about a year, you kind of learn to accept that maybe everybody doesn't do the homework. And so I honestly came into today thinking there's a decent chance that nobody has read the book. So I'm very happy to hear that some of you have read the book. That's already way more than I had thought. This book, I think, is real fucking good. You were talking about how you started reading it, you got through most of it. The other person mentioned that they started reading it in the Barnes & Noble and at least got through all of chapter 1. Like, I think it's a book that grabs you. And as you were kind of alluding to when you said, let me find what you said here. One of the people in the Twitch chat said, doesn't get too hard into the science, which is a lot different than what I'm used to reading, but that might change in later chapters. So I got kind of like 3/4 of the way in before I decided that this would be a good book for the book club. And he doesn't get more specific than he needs to for you to Google and find the sources, which I kind of appreciate because it feels like it's more respectful of like my time, kind of. Because like you, I assume that you read a bunch of studies and stuff, and I read studies at work all day. For anybody who's new to the channel, I basically work as an essay writer. So if you need help with your graduate paper, or you need tutoring, or you need essay writing help, I help with all that kind of stuff. A huge chunk of that is teaching people how to do research efficiently. And I'm going to say efficiently and not correctly, because I'm not sure if there is a correct way, but there is certainly an efficient way, and that efficient way kind of requires that you understand what you're meant to do. Um, so anywho, I have to read that shit a lot, all the time, and it's kind of boring, and there's a lot of wasted space. You have to waste a lot of space. You have to waste the introduction explaining who thinks this and why they think it, and then you need a whole bunch at the end to tell you where to go to look for the source. I'm happy we don't need all of the citation stuff at the end, although I would have appreciated, and I don't know if this is available in the copy version of the book or not, I would have appreciated maybe some kind of notation that you can go back to in the back of the book to find all of his sources, at the very least like a DOI number, which is the identification number, sort of like the ISPN or ISBN on the back of a book, where you can look it up and find the author information, the publisher information, and all that. I would have appreciated if there was some way to find the DOI information, but for the few things that I was kind of iffy on him talking about or interested in finding, I was able to look it up from the details in the book and find it more or less quickly. Now, I don't know if that's because Range is a popular book and like people have looked it up enough to where Google's like, hey, when people are asking this in a very strange way, they're looking for this source. So Google could have trained itself to help us with that, but in any event, I didn't have too much of a problem finding the sources that I wanted to from the book. And I definitely think that he's writing it in a Gladwell sort of way where he wants to appeal to a bunch of people, though like you said in the chat, I'm not sure if that's a bad thing. It's an annoying thing. It can be. I think Gladwell in particular is kind of annoying. But I think that we might be tainted because of his appearances elsewhere. I think I'm more annoyed knowing what he looks like and sounds like and the shit that he tries to peddle. And I'm more so upset like by that than I am necessarily his books. But I can't help but imagine this like weird looking dude. I don't know. I like after seeing him at kind of Gladwell podcasts only. Yeah, his podcasts I hear are very good, but unfortunately, again, when I hear his voice and I read in his voice, it kills it for me. And he's also kind of like a big shill, so you know. And I like that this book kind of throws little digs at that throughout, that, you know, a lot of the people who have focused on this idea of specialization are people that benefit from the idea of specialization. It's very difficult to try to make a bunch of money off of selling generalization because anybody can help you generalize, but you need certain people to help you specialize, right? You need a coach, you need a team, you need this, you need that. To specialize, but to generalize, you can literally just go out there and do whatever. Anything you do that's not related to what you're doing currently helps you with generalization. So it's a less profitable thing to push, I think. Though that's not to say that this guy is probably not making a bunch of money off of the book and speaking engagements and whatever. But that's typically what you have to worry about with authors of books like this. So, you know, you have to keep in mind that like on this book is in part like trying to sell something, right? And if it's the same ideas that they use for their talks and whatever, you know that the book is trying to in part sell their talks and their ability to show up. Which books do you read again? So today all that we're going through is Range, and that's Range by David Epstein. That's all we'll try to talk about. Let's see here. I listened to the audiobook and definitely found myself wondering about the sources used. Yeah. And I don't know if you guys have to do this. Here, I'm going to link this in the chat. Here is the physical copy of the oh shit. I only linked that in Discord. Here, I'll put that in, or I only linked that in Twitch. Let's put that on YouTube as well. There is my Amazon affiliate link to the book. If you buy it with that link, I'll get a kickback on it. I've never done that before, so we'll see how that works out. I have to buy the physical book if I want to do this book club. Part of the reason why I was rushing and hurrying today is a lot of the notes that I took, and this is a good... Oh, okay, hold on. I might want to say this properly because I might clip this and put this in the notes YouTube video. So I had a bit of a mishap with my notes. What ended up happening is I sat down to do the show this morning and I looked at all of my notes and they were impossible without knowing where to look in the book for exactly how it was worded. And the reason why I would have to look back in the book is I was concerned I wasn't remembering things properly, or that I didn't take the notes quite properly. I didn't word the notes in the exact way that things are worded in the book. And that ends up becoming a problem, because the way that I wanted to talk about the book was to use a quote from the book or the exact terminology and then expand on it with what I think about that. So I kind of shot myself in the foot, because I check one of my notes and I go back in the book and I realize, I misheard it. So he says psychologist, or no, he says cognitive psychologist. And I thought that he said cognitive scientist. And I thought that it would be an interesting aside to say that, like, I don't think of myself as like a cognitive psychologist, because I think you need all the education, whatever, to do that. But I would consider myself a cognitive scientist, because I literally write the scientific reports and shit for cognitive scientists like all day at work. That's like, that was one of the bigger focuses with a lot of my graduate writing when it was at its peak. So I would consider myself a cognitive scientist. But that's not something I could have done as easily, because it ended up being that the book says cognitive psychologist and not scientist. So the entire nuance of the entire note, like the whole point, was he didn't say psychologist, and he ended up saying psychologist. And as I looked and compared more of my notes, they were not exactly worded how they appeared in the book. And beyond that, I didn't follow a bit of advice that I give in the note-taking video that will be published on YouTube in the next few days. Currently, it's available on the Patreon to anybody who has access to the Patreon. If you pay even $1, you get early access to all the YouTube videos. Here, I'll put the anime girl on the screen so that you know that, whoops, that's not an anime girl. I'll put that on the screen. But anywho, I didn't follow the advice that I give for media, which is that you should have a timestamp or some kind of chronological tracker that runs in parallel to the notes you're taking. The reason why you do that is so if you're taking a note on something that happens in a video or happens in an audiobook, as long as you have some breadcrumbs, like, oh, on page 22, which was the note before this, I said this, and on page 26, which is the note after this, I said this, so it's probably between 23 and 25, right? You can guess the pages as long as you're taking, like, some, page number type notes. And then if you're watching a video, you should keep a timestamp running on, like, the left-hand margin, and just every few notes put in the timestamp of where that note is happening. That way, if you want to go back in the video and reference it and figure out why I thought this thing, or double check it, or regardless of what the reason is, you can go back to the source media and find that. What ended up being the problem for me is I didn't do that. And so I had no way of going back. And the way that Audible keeps track of things, it's like in parts or portions or some shit like that. I don't like it. And so I just didn't keep track of things like that. So I broke my own rules and I screwed myself. But to get back on track and follow some of my rules, I have a rule that you should iterate upon your notes, and that iteration should happen at the time of review or after. And given that I reviewed just before the show and I said, oh, look, these are useless because I can't go back in the book and figure out what this dude said. Given that sucked for, future me right now reviewing the notes, I want past me in the future, right, the person who takes notes next, to make sure to put in some kind of chronological tracker. And I found that audiobooks, that's going to be difficult for, because I can't, like, listen to it in real time with you guys. So I'm going to buy the physical copy of the book, and I'm just going to take notes in the margins and put my, little my little sticky notes in it, and I'm just going to do it like normal. And I think that that's going to be far more helpful for this project. But there you go. I learned. So I looked at my note-taking system and I said, hey, taking all these notes in Notion and not having any way to tie back to the physical book kind of sucks, right? It doubly sucks. One, it sucks because I can't go back to the book. And two, it sucks because I misremembered all these things, or I didn't quote them exactly how they happened in the book. So on my next notes, I'm going to solve both of those problems, 2 birds with 1 stone, by doing it physically. Of course, the benefit of physical notes is I can literally just leaf through the book with you guys in real time and just talk about it in chronological order. What is some stuff that I thought was interesting? And then as we walk through the book, you guys can follow along with me. I can say, hey, I'm on page 5, I'm on page 8, I'm on page whatever. If you guys want to ask in the chat, you can. And that way we're working with the same thing. And again, here's the... I put the link to that book in chat, so if you guys want to go buy it, you can. And then you'll have the opportunity to follow along in real time with me in the same copy of the book. I personally found it pretty tedious to adapt my note-taking strategy to the audiobook. Me too. So I think what I'm going to do is not use my note-taking strategy for the book, especially since I have to host the book club, and I have to be the one to come up with like some guided path for us to go down. I think I definitely can't use the audiobook. I think you guys as listeners might be able to. Like honestly, you guys will probably only get to say like 2 or 3 things that are like huge, or you only come across them. So when you can't watch book smarts crying, I think for you guys, if you just take a note of like a quote from the book and just write it down as you're hearing it, and then write like a little entry about what you thought about that, what you wanted to say. Then when you come to the book club, you can tell me like, hey, this quote, and oh wait, because you can't give me a page number, and I can't control F a physical audio or a physical book. Yeah, the audiobook kind of sucks. Good thing I didn't get that Audible sponsorship. I applied and they rejected me. Joke's on them. They have an inferior product, I guess. At least for this round of at least for this round of the book club, which is fine, whatever. So I have the book. I'm going to order it, and then we'll be able to do that a little bit better. Do you upload VODs? I do not. But if you go to Twitch, those will have all of the streams that I've done, barring any where I had to delete it because something was on screen that shouldn't have been on screen. I'm going to start doing the YouTube and the Twitch at the same time, so you can have YouTube VODs if you really want them. And I think the YouTube VOD experience is better than Twitch, but if you want the backlog, you have to go on Twitch for sure. Okay. I'm going to catch up on the chat real quick, and then we'll start with the introduction of range, and we'll get into it from there. Never used the Audible app before, but it was a pain to return to specific spots in the chapter. Yeah, you really have to use the clip bookmark thing. I use that a lot, and it's very, very helpful. But if you're not using the clip bookmarker thing, I think it'll be cancerous to try to navigate. It really, really sucks. Let's see here. But a lot of people really, really like audiobooks. I just think they're the kinds of people that don't reference back to what they read. So it might be easier as like a binge consumption thing to like very quickly get through a book. But I do think it sucks if you want to keep referencing back to it. Let's see here. Just got done reading chapter 1. Okay. Forgot. Okay. So if you forgot to do it this week, again, next week we'll do chapter 2 through... I don't know. Here, let me look on my phone and see what the chapters are like. What's a good divide? We should do chapter 2 through what, I wonder. Audible chapters. 2 is how the wicked world was made. 3 is when less of the same's more. And chapter 4 is learning fast and slow. I think doing chapter 2 through 4 is fine. So that would come out to be a little over 2 hours of reading, which I think is reasonable. I think you guys can do 2 hours of reading because that's with the Audible thing. So, I mean, it's 2 hours to have it read to you, which I think is reasonable. This week, if you want to get caught up, I think is less than an hour in total because it's 31 minutes for oh, wait, no. It should be like an hour in total. 45 minutes for like one chapter, and then... Let's see. And then it was 25 minutes for the introduction. And I do think you should do the introduction. It's basically like a chapter 1. They're kind of short, I thought. Yeah, I feel like they're short as well. I don't feel like this is a very difficult read. So I think chapters 2 through 4 is completely reasonable for next week. So that's what we'll do. I think that's reasonable. Any thoughts? Any thoughts before I kind of go through my whole spiel and I go start to finish through it? Because I kind of addressed some of the ones at the beginning. Seems sort of Malcolm Gladwell-y. Yeah, and it's not a bad thing necessarily. Um, I do wish, I guess in hindsight, I do wish he did more with the sources, but I don't know. I feel like this book is meant to be an overview of things. So I feel like the audience of this book is meant to be people who have read all those other books. Like I feel like this is meant to be what's the word in anime when you have like a meta and you're going to like kick the shit out of it? What is it? Um it's such a buzzword and I totally forget what it is. Are we having a discussion after your spiel? Um okay, so this is something I didn't think about. Everybody expects a book club to be some big discussion. I don't know how I can do that with viewers. I don't really want to do it with viewers. So I think the second book club that's going to be for streamers and stuff, we'll do it that way. But this one, I don't think so. And I may rethink future book clubs because of that, because I don't want to talk to a bunch of internet random people. Sorry, just got here. What book are you talking about? Range by David Epstein. And if you want a link to get that book for next week we'll be covering chapters 2 through 4, which should be about 2 hours of listening to the audiobook if you want to get the audiobook, or you can get the physical book, which is what I'll be doing after this week. So yeah, you're not very far behind. It's less than 2 hours of reading currently to get caught up to chapter 1 where we're at right now. And that's not to say chapter 1 was 2 hours. Chapter 1 was less than an hour. And then it had an introductory section that's helpful to read. But yeah, so that's what we're doing. That feel when Neo Destiny has a boring stream. Who's Neo Destiny? Like Stephen Bonelli? The Audible interface on PC is straight out of 2005. True. But the app is kind of all right before, but it was a pain to return to specific spots. Yeah, it kind of is. I'd rather have this than a discussion. True. That's what I'm feeling. So if you're down for this, where I just talk about it and I rant about it, this is the stream for you. If you're looking to like converse with me about it, probably not. But if you do want to converse with me about it and there's some reason we should take your opinion seriously besides like making content on the internet, email me. My email is booksmarts.twitch@gmail.com. That's the same place that you would reach out if you want to get tutoring or writing help as well, which is all done at $25 an hour. But if you want to be in the book club, I am planning one with a bunch of streamers and influencer people, and I could include you if you have some background that makes like your opinion interesting. And if you're willing to work a little bit harder to make sure that that's like reflected in your participation in the book club, I would love that. Because I'm currently reaching out to a lot of like writer friends, none of which want to do the book club with us, because they're like, oh, no, I've been watching your stuff and all the people that you talk to on Twitch are pretty fucking stupid, so I wouldn't want to. And I'm like, damn, that's a fucking roast. Literally all of them were like, no, the people you talk to on Twitch are fucking stupid and we don't want to do it. So it's kind of rough, but you know, that was the trade-off I made when I chose to do Twitch stuff. I know that most of the people that I like don't really like Twitch because it's a lot of stupid people, but you know, I think that'll make it fun though. I'm pretty sure that we can pick books and things that'll be interesting to everybody in the Twitch group, and it'll be different from like what I would normally read or listen to. So I look forward to it, even if like some of my peers are less enthused about it. You know. But anywho, so yeah, if you have like a background in something interesting and you want to become a part of that, email me. I'd be happy to add you to it because the initial plan was to have some smart people in there, but I'm running short on them. All right, so I'm going to get my notes out. We'll just kind of start going through it. If you guys have thoughts that you want to include while we're doing it, just type it in the chat. This is me and you guys. Just us. We'll do this together. Ishoni. All right. Let's see about reading. I need to do a physical book. Yes. Okay. Got those 2 points. All right. So the very first introductory section, he's kind of trying to use this comparison between Tiger Woods and Roger Federer, which are two people that are at like the top of their game. So Roger Federer, he's like a tennis dude. He fucking wins everything. He wins like all of the world shit over and over and over again. And then we have Tiger Woods, who, of course, is a golf superstar. He was raised since he was a very, very little boy to become a golf superstar. And so the introduction is kind of laying out these two tales and comparing them. And, as people who are looking in hindsight on their stories, we know that Tiger and Roger are both like at the top of their fields. They're both incredible, crazy good athletes. And athletes is important because like there's so many dimensions to the first introductory chapter and why it's helpful. So, it's laying down what'll be the whole point of the book, which is the way we're thinking about how you get good at something or how you become a specialist is kind of flawed. And this entire idea that like through specialization and the honing in on very, very particular skills and talents, that's not necessarily the way that you become an expert in all of these fields, or that's not necessarily a way that you can perform at the very, very top. And we've thought that because of a lot of other like studies into chess prodigies and violinists and fucking top athletes. And we've tried to extrapolate, okay, if all the top athletes need to focus and, very much so hone in on this one thing, that's probably the way that you get good at anything. So if you're an engineer out there, I guess you would have to really, really focus down on your individual part of engineering. And it's like, well, no, not really. Like, it really depends on the job. It depends on the application. It depends on the subject. And this should seem like common sense, but I think what really helps him in explaining this is contrasting it to like what we're talking about in the modern day. So by pointing to people like Gladwell who are advocating for you to really hone in and focus and specialize on very particular parts of your craft and immerse yourself in flow experiences for this one particular thing, this is kind of like misguided for a lot of people, because unless you fit into some of the categories that we talked about before, which are things that have nice learning environments, which we discuss into chapter 1, you're going to have a tough time, because for some fields, it doesn't matter how much time you dump into specializing in them or learning very particular patterns or trying to repeat the same thing over and over again. If they're wicked learning environments or learning environments in which the information is not consistent, patterns don't emerge the same way they do in kind learning environments, there's a lot of variance to the situations that you encounter. Past experience doesn't necessarily help you in wicked learning environments, which is part of his definition for them. And if you're interested in wicked versus kind learning environments, you can go read a bunch of stuff about this. Like, this is the biggest sell for me about this book, is that it outlines in narrative form a lot of different ideas in cognitive science, in learning and education. And so if you hit at any point anything where you're like, I kind of want to know more about this, I don't trust you, or this seems like a really cool idea, I would love to like explore this more, or like see how this applies to my work, then you can just look it up and you can find that like every single thing he talks about, well, some of the stuff has been pretty niche, but every single thing he's talked about that I've looked up, you've been able to find at least like a few handfuls of studies on all of these things. So if you really want to go learn about those ideas and those topics, you can. And then if you follow some of my research advice, which is like, when you are evaluating a source, try to look at how that source is connected to others in its field. And you can do that on Google Scholar, at least, by underneath the source, it'll say cited by XYZ number. And if you click that cited by XYZ number, it'll give you every single paper in which this paper you're viewing has been cited. Now, why is that helpful? Well, you can kind of see what the discussion around a topic or around a paper is by doing that. So for instance, if there's a paper that's kind of niche and it's only cited by maybe 15 other sources, and I click, okay, cited by, and I look at the list, and they're all very critical of the ideas in the paper. Like they say, there have been flaws in our understanding of cognitive science. For instance, in the past, we believed X, Y, and Z, which ended up being trumped by future studies A, B, and C. then you can go, oh no. And you can start looking up, like, all of the papers that would refute this idea, now that you have keywords for that, now that you have two kinds of groups of studies which are being compared to each other, and you can cross-reference when are both of these being used, and you can see all the times where people are critical of it, or at least talking about the connection between these two or the conflict between these two. So if you know how to research, this is a very fun book, because it's almost like an encyclopedia of sorts that's organized in like a narrative fashion. And if at any point along the way you want to look something up, you can, and it's kind of fun. Thanks for the follow.
Oh, everyone likes their own brand, don't they? This is magic.
Analysis.
All right, analysis.
Smells good. So yeah, that's kind of where I see the appeal in the book, is that at any point throughout it, if you want to look up the studies and find them and see what the literature is on it, you can. And unlike the Gladwell stuff, I think you won't find... I think this guy covers enough of the gamut to where you get the half of the Malcolm Gladwell stuff that I wish you did, which may be another reason why I low-key like this book, is when Gladwell is talking in his book, Gladwell is trying to sell you very much so on an idea. And so Gladwell will leave out an entire half of all of these scientific fields that disagree with him. You don't get the dissenting opinion. The dissenting opinion is something I want you guys to have. And if I do a research video in the future to like show you guys how to do research, that's a huge part of it. That's a part of every tutoring session that I have on research. If you're one of the people that's paid for like a private tutoring session with me, you know this. If we go through an essay or something, you know this. We start with the research and then we go through it. And a huge part of that is me showing you not only how can we find ideas that support what we want to write about, but how do we find the dissent? How do we find articles and other people who are attacking this idea? Because that's an important, like, it's yin and yang, and you want to know both of them, right? Because if I only focus on the yin and I get very, very powerful solutions to proving that this thing is real, but I have no concept of the yang, I have no concept of anybody that disagrees with it, it's difficult for me to look at the yin and understand how good it is when I have none of the bad to temper that expectation, right? So you could have thousands and thousands of studies which support your yin, which support this idea being the greatest thing ever. But if you never pay attention to the fact that there are 2,000 studies out there telling you why it's wrong, and they're all from the last 4 years because this has been a recent development, then you're never able to balance that, right?
Oh, everyone likes their
You
own
live in this
brand, don't they?
perpetuity of
It's
thinking
magic.
in terms of the
All
yin,
right,
and you
analysis.
don't have a balanced idea of things. So if anybody that talks to you has the yin and they have the yang and they see both of these interplayed, so like, why are the reasons that you would believe this, but why don't we? If you're only talking yin, that person is very quickly cued into, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. So if you guys want to be like educated people that go out and use the information you get in these books, I would greatly, I think it's great if you just, do that research, find the yin and find the yang, and do that for the things that you want to talk about. Half of this book might be boring to you. Half of this book might be concepts and ideas that you personally don't see yourself using at all, right? And so if that's the case, then don't waste a bunch of time on that stuff. But if there's one or two things where you're like, that's an interesting idea, or that applies to my own life, don't just take them at face value. Take that opportunity for the one or two things in this entire book to just go and do a Google real quick. Go to Google Scholar and type in the ideas, try to find the study he's talking about. Once you get the study, look at where it's been cited. See what the general consensus is. Is it being used to make fun of a whole group of scientists that believe in some dumb shit? Or is it being used as like something for new research? Like maybe it's cutting edge. Maybe this is an idea that's starting to revolutionize the field. Or maybe it's from some crackpot nobody who doesn't really matter, Or maybe it's from, Shenzhou fucking university in China, and it's got fucking 50 authors on it, and nobody has cited it ever. And it's just some nothing Chinese university thing that was meant to like give a bunch of people their doctorates, and otherwise it's completely useless in terms of like the broader scientific field. All of these things are possible. All of these things are like pretty apparent if you just look at this one thing I'm telling you to, which is how is it being referenced. And yeah, you can learn all that just with that one tip. And that's one tip of many that I have for research. So, you know, if you have your own systems for confirming information or for gathering it, apply those. But try to only apply it to where you actually care in the book. That'll save you time. That's certainly what I did. Booksmart's looking cute today. Hey, bro, thanks. Yeah, so that's kind of like some general info about the book, some general like my thoughts on it, how I'm using it, and you know, again, that note-taking failure that I'm probably going to have to address in the next upcoming week with a physical copy of the book. The ideas brought up in the book seems to be very intuitive to how I learn. Evidence is the plural of anecdote. How far into the book did you get? Because I think you might. I don't know if you know what you're getting at there. I don't know if you know how much of a memester you might turn into, depending on how you. Because part of what he talks about in the book in chapter 1 is about wicked learning environments and how this evidence. I dabbed on the chat. Okay. I'm just going to drop it. I'm going to let that one hang, dude. Okay. Anywho, fuck. Where are we going to start? Okay, so Tiger versus Federer. Like I said before, these are two, you know, greats in their respective like sports. They're at the top of their game. It talks about how when these two met each other, they realized that they had very different upbringings, but they had very like very similar positions where they're at the top of the field in the world. Why are you frowny facing, Monkey Oppo? Fuck, I'm getting distracted. Anywho, so I think that this was well chosen in terms of like an introductory chapter topic because it lets him get into a lot of stuff. It lets him touch upon the Malcolm Gladwells that he's writing the book to counter. It helps him talk about how like, well, why was Federer able to do this? Federer literally broke all of your rules. He like literally like was a generalist all the way up until the moment where he invested himself fully into this. So, you know, it starts to lay some seeds for what he will go into in chapter 1. And I like that like we quickly move past the sports examples in chapter 1 by saying something along the lines of like, how well do sports and chess reflect your job? And I think that this is something that we get more into in chapters 2 and 3. But basically, like, you have to realize and you have to take with a grain of salt all of the studies that you read based on what they're covering, right? So if I read a study, and let's say it's the best study, it's the best. I got the best studies. Let's say it's the best study and it has like tons and tons of participants. It's over the course of 20 or 30 years. It has like, you know, set methods and like fucking set questions and really good tests and everything's good. Everything's tip top. But it's about chess, right? And then they extrapolate what they learned about human behavior and human learning in chess, and they tried to expand that to like, and accountants would also benefit from this, and lawyers would also benefit from this, and a plumber, yeah, I suppose we're all humans, he could benefit from this too. And then we make a lot of assumptions that aren't guaranteed to us through the methodology of the research. And this is something again that I try to teach in the basics of research, but like, look at the methodology and look at the results. This is how you test your methodology beyond comparing it to like other studies that exist, which you can do as I described before, where you can look at the citations and, you know, follow and I'm gonna keep getting fucking pulled onto tangents, but like to address that briefly.
Ooh, wafting. Oh, everyone likes their own brand, don't they? This is magic.
If you want to test the methodology of something, a good way to do that is to look at other studies that are covering the same topic or are arriving at similar conclusions and then compare their methodology sections. And then as like an added dimension to weigh out how you're doing that comparison, also look at which of those studies has the most citations by other people, okay? Because that's going to be like in my terms, the most important of those to look at. Okay, and look at what that one does, and go, okay. This one has 2,000 or 2,500 people. Granted, the survey that it's using is more general and kind of more basic, so it's more basic, but it covers a wide swath of people, and it has a lot of references to other smaller studies, and it's meant to confirm all of them. Okay, that's why this one has a lot of citations, because it covers a lot of info, and it has a really good large test. And then you look at yours, and you're like, huh. This one tests 6 people, okay, not 2,500, but it's a 6-month thing where they're testing if they're able to increase results on a test or something. Okay, well, it's tough to have a lot of people with a test that goes a long time, and maybe they're kids, so maybe there's a reason or something. Oh man, I'm getting on a huge tangent. I don't think I should go on this tangent. Anywho, if you want to check methodologies, you can check it with other big studies that exist in its group. Man, I'm going to keep getting pulled on tangents because we talk about research, and I know that I can't reference any videos I have about research because I don't have any. I really wish I could just go and if you haven't watched the video on research, go ahead and check it out. But I don't have it. I don't have it done. How can it be fair to make a general statement about success for generalists when a lot of the examples have generalists become specialists? Isn't it all just about... Okay, so let's look at that right there. So if you are a person who is the targeted audience of this book, who is already convinced about specialists, right? And you're like, I must become a specialist because I want to become a specialist, and I think that this is the best way to become the best specialist. There's a lot of parts to that. So let's break it into 2 parts. Part A, which is how do I become the best specialist that I can? And then part B, I want to become a specialist. So how do I do this in the best way? I want to become the best specialist. How do I do this in the best way? I want to become the best specialist. Well, right now, the advice seems to be you need to specialize early, quickly, and then put a bunch of hours into the specialization to become the best specialist. But what you're saying, okay, the target of the book still wants to be a specialist, right? They want to be the best. But what we're offering as the mechanism of that is very different. So we're enabling them to go and taste other fields, to sample things, to go and find creative and unique solutions in other fields that they can bring back to theirs. And that is what we're saying makes you become the best specialist. Not by specializing the whole time as much as you can, but by including a lot of things and becoming a generalist, generalizing your information and making sure you're taking in a lot from a bunch of different groups will, by extension, make you a better specialist. So that's what the book is saying. And I think, if you're talking about how, okay, let me break down the first part again. My bad, I see titled now. I came in late, but okay, let me keep responding to this guy real quick. How can it be fair to make a general statement about success for generalists? Yeah, so right now, they don't make a general statement about success for generalists. So far, all that we've read is talking about how generalists become better specialists. So when you say, when a lot of examples have generalists become specialists, yeah, because you missed the point. The point is to talk about generalists and that mechanism of generalization being the way that you become the best specialist, as opposed to focusing on specialization early and quickly and making that your whole focus to become a better specialist. In any case, the entire thing is about becoming a specialist. So I think you misunderstand that. Isn't it all about child specialization versus you finding your true north on your own? That's not really how it's explained in the book either. So I'm confused how you've warped it into that. Unless you only read the very beginning introduction or what I've said. I have a sneaking suspicion you didn't read the book, though. I came in late, but what book is being discussed? Is it Epstein's Range? Yes, it is, by David Epstein. Thoughts on the church? I'm not a huge fan of the church, if I'm being quite honest. But I guess it depends on what kind of church we're talking about. No. Okay, YouTube chat. That was in the book? What was in the book? The bit about Tiger Woods and Roger Federer? Yes, it's the intro to the entire book. I don't know what part you're talking about, Brandon. My bad, I see title now. Hell yeah, bro. Hell yeah. Maybe I should put Range by David Epstein. I'll put that next time, but Anywho, right now we're still in the introductory chapter. We're talking about the bit where he's comparing Tiger Woods and Roger Federer. And I'm saying that in that bit where we're comparing those two, it's a really helpful example for building out everything else. It gives them an opportunity to compare one guy who started as a generalist and became a specialist and another dude who specialized very early and followed the Malcolm Gladwell advice. Because in chapter 1, then we start to take those same frameworks, those same skeletons of stories and of purpose, and we use them in chapter 1. So we start to talk about yet another instance where we specialized early and is commonly used to defend the idea of early specialization and 10,000 hours and all that other stuff, which is this psychologist dude who was like, I want some children who are, how do you say, geniuses. Yeah, and I think it is possible if only I have a wife who will listen to me and let me, raise them in one dimension. Okay? And so he one-dimensionally raised these kids to hopefully become chess prodigies or prodigies of any sort. And of course they do. And he's like, yes, like it's very great. Yes, they are geniuses now. And what we did was we looked at that dude and we said, therein lies the secret. If we just focus the child very intensely on whatever it is that we want them to become, and we, structure their entire life around that one thing, they will become great in that one thing. And it's like, whoa, that's not very fucking scientific. So first of all, he raised them to be one thing, which was chess prodigy, right? And like, as we will get into in later chapters, in chapters 2 and 3 and whatever, we kind of start to see that chess prodigies and chess more generally is probably not the best like analog for most people and their work, right? Like for most people, I got here late. What did I miss? Not too much. We're still on the introduction moving into chapter 1. So I would say that most people would not benefit from advice for chess professionals. And I would say that a lot of jobs which I think would have crossover with chess professionals, again, even if I go that one layer separated, so even if I go chess prodigies, normies, chess prodigies and normies just do not fucking mesh well together. Even if I expand this and I say not chess prodigies, but maybe like, prodigies in general, and I compare them to normal people. Like, a lot of the groups that we're using as like the default human to try and like extrapolate further information about how we learn, a lot of what they're doing is just not indicative of like what the average person deals with. Like, learning how a chess prodigy got really good at chess is not going to help you like become better at your marketing firm. Learning how a violinist prodigy was taught how to be a violinist is not really going to help you like become a better fucking real estate agent. Learning how like this dude raised kids to be one thing from the moment they were born doesn't help most adults who are already past that point, which is something we discuss in further chapters. So like no matter which way you slice this group that we're using to compare to normies, it's not helpful. There's a lot of gaps here. And a lot of the current literature pretends like there isn't a gap. It pretends like it's ignorant to the context of these people's success. And that context in terms of like what it is that they're doing, but also that context in terms of like how they were raised up. Like ending up coming to a conclusion where you say, yes, specialization very early and having a very strict parent who pushes you in this one direction, that is the best. Who does that help? Really? Like, who does that help? Parents to like make their kids into these crazy things? And like this idea that it's to help the parents, this is something we touch very, very briefly upon in the Tiger Woods thing, which is that Tiger Woods' dad made an entire thing around his parenting of Tiger. He was very, very crazy about it, very, very, very much so. And then he made a lot of money off of peddling that crazy form of parenting that, makes a decision for your kid and then that is their destiny and you're going to fucking push them into it. And like, all of this doesn't take into account the negatives that are associated with raising your children that way. And Oh, whew, I almost just went like a racial route, but like if you look at psychology and you look at a lot of studies on parenting styles, you can see that this kind of like tiger parent, this kind of like what you would think is like stereotypical Asian parenting, which is something that you can actually read about in psychology. It's kind of neat. Um, like this kind of parenting style is really oppressive on kids, duh, and it leads to a lot of negative things later on in a kid's life. Like you're not necessarily helping your kids by putting them through that kind of shit. And if that kid is not like down with whatever you're pushing them to do, you could really fuck up the kid by doing that to them. And this is like 100% method, right? Because I'm telling you, as the parent, if you want them to be good at this, they must be specialized. They need all this training. They need to be focused on it. And that also means that you are not accepting of the child moving outside of those boundaries. Because the way that I'm telling you to raise your kids puts these bumpers in place and forces you to follow this one path no matter what, which can be disastrous. It doesn't allow for the flexibility of like, oh, fuck, my kid doesn't want to be a golf star. What am I going to do? Like, what am I going to do? It's like there's so many problems with it. And I'm happy that he barely touches upon all of them in like different directions. But like, I was so happy to see this book open up by criticizing a fucking tiger style of parenting. No, it's called Tiger King. Um, I'd read a Joe Exotic parenting book. Yeah, so I like this whole intro. It's touching upon a lot of problems with like normie culture and how they talk about like raising their kids and learning and becoming a specialist and becoming the greatest. What you gotta do to become the greatest? I don't think you want to push them to do all that shit early on. I think, if you keep them generalized and you let them learn a lot of stuff, you develop skills that are going to be helpful no matter where they go. One thing that seemed really fucked up was when Tiger's dad would drop off his 8-year-old kid on the golf course and peace out. Hey, bro, that's the Tiger parenting style, bro. You don't get a kid like Tiger Woods. You don't just leave him at a golf course when he's 8 years old. Come on now. Come on now. How do you think you get to Tiger Woods? Yeah, it's pretty not great. It's pretty not great. So that's all of chapter 1. Here, let me see if there's any. I haven't been looking at my notes, to be honest. I'm just kind of looking at the chapter title. Let's see. All right, so I already asked some of this stuff at the beginning. Any parts from Tiger versus Roger Federer that you found particularly interesting? In the field I want to get into, I really need specific experience to get hired. So while reading, I was trying to think of how I can generalize while still specializing in work experience. You can specialize in your work experience. The book goes into more nuance about this, so by the time we get to the end of it, I'm sure you'll find better answers for yourself. But like, to give it to you now, I think that if your work needs you to specialize, it's good to keep in mind that is the case. If you do benefit from experience, that's cool. But there are ways of getting experience that like under the hood, it can be generalized, but in your resume, it can be very specific. So, for instance, I could have the decision between getting 2 different jobs or 2 different certification programs. And in one of them, I know it's like uber duper duper specific. And I know that I'm going to learn like this very, very specific thing. But over here, I kind of know the instructor and he's a bit of a goofball and we might do some like practical stuff, whatever. If I have the opportunity to take these 2 certification courses, I would prefer this one because you might get more out of it. And so instead of thinking about like specialized, like how does this one-to-one apply to my job 110%, think of things that you're interested in that will generally expand your abilities or generally expand that experience. So there is experience in terms of what goes on your resume, and then there's experience in terms of like things you have actually experienced, right? And I think that you can definitely work out the resume items while not necessarily being as specialized in reality. So I think that that's part of where the balance can come in for you. Is this book can help point you in the direction of making decisions that increase your general understanding, even if on the surface they're like helping you in terms of like showing that you're specialized and you have this special experience. So that's what I would say in response to that. If you need specialized experience, then you need specialized experience. But there are other things you can use to help at your job. I think when you're talking specialized experience, we're normally talking about what's on your resume or what's required. But beyond that, I mean, there's plenty of ways that you can spend your time that doesn't involve acquiring the specific experience you need for your field or for your job, right? Like, I do essays, but it might also help me to go paint or to go look at fucking bees or to take any number of opportunities that are in front of me for random things that may not relate to my work, but I might be interested in. And it's like, I would say, if I were to write this book on my own, like a follow up to it, I would start to talk about the value of following things that you can invest yourself into that are not specialized. So if you feel a draw to engage in different kinds of tasks or to do different kinds of things, what I want to teach you is how to evaluate which of these rabbit holes to jump into. And I would say that the way to help with that is to evaluate the value of each of those rabbit holes, right? And I think that just because it's obvious that it's helpful to your job should not be the biggest reason you jump into a rabbit hole. I think a big part of it should be the level of interest you think you'll be able to carry through, the amount of motivation you think could push your sail to carry you through that task. Because as he starts to point out in chapter 1, the way that we form memories isn't necessarily on how long we spend on a task, really. It's about other things. Now he says, I probably have it in my notes, but I think he says, let's see here. What does he say? Because I don't agree with him 100%. Where is it? I don't know where it is because, again, my notes are fucked, as we discussed in the beginning of the show. I'll fix them next time. But he essentially says that, memories aren't formed the way we think, and he gives some dumbass explanation. I think that, more or less where we're at right now with, lasting memories, there are different things you can do to make memories last longer, and we're just starting to key into that. One of the things that you can do is challenge yourself. If you're challenged when you're doing something, even if you only spent 5 minutes doing a task that was challenging and maybe 10 to 30 minutes doing proper studying and a no time multiple choice test and whatever, if you had 5 to 10 minutes of absolute suffering while you're going through something and 5 to 10 and triple that time actually dedicated studying, what we're finding is the kids that were uber challenged but still able to become successful at the end of it, they were really, really challenged, but they had same results as these other kids. So let's say we had kids do the traditional, we're going to study and we're going to give you a lesson, then we're going to give you a test at the end. If we take two groups, this group got 80% up here, and this group that only had 5 minutes but were uber challenged also got 80%, and we check back in with them in 6 months, the group that actually had all of the formal time and the formal lessons and whatever, that group actually remembers way fucking less than the group that was challenged for 5 minutes. The lasting memory actually seems to go to the kids that were challenged or the kids that had a hard time. And he doesn't connect these dots in the book, but I think that making sure to constantly play with that dimension of study, to play with the dimension of I don't know exactly what's going on, or I am challenged to try and learn this thing. I think keeping that dimension up is helpful to you because that's going to help you retain information for longer. And that does lend itself towards generalization. It does lend itself to going outside of your field and engaging in tasks or fields where you don't have previous knowledge. You don't have anything that's helping you be an expert. Because what it does is, and this is my woo explanation, is it's turning on a bit of your brain that's trying to figure shit out. And I don't think that the full capacity of the figure shit out part of your brain actually gets triggered when you're doing specialization tasks. When I am learning about chess or I'm studying chess openings, perhaps I'm in chess mode, right? And that's a very, very specific part of my brain that I go to, right? And all of my training is specialized to get better at being in that specific mode for chess. But let's say that I want to be an emergency response personnel person, whatever. perhaps it's best that I can focus in all sorts of situations on what is important and get that information very quickly. If that's the case, I'm not going to do well from specializing all the time. I may not even do well from drills done at work that are meant to mimic emergency response scenarios. That may not even be helpful beyond very specific things like emergency procedure. As far as like actually like making decisions on the fly, evaluating information that's coming in a wicked learning environment where we don't understand everything at once, to like get the critical thinking skills there, I think you're better engaging in practice where you don't know what the outcome is, or practice that really challenges you to look deeper for answers to things and that forces you to do that quickly. Because when you engage in those, that seems to create lasting knowledge. That seems to create like lasting learning impressions. So if you're a teacher and you're meant to teach people stuff like that, I think forcing them into that scenario is going to help them. That's why like some emergency training programs, and this is not something that's mentioned in the book, but like here's more info. A lot of emergency training programs try to mimic the craziness of the emergency scenario, probably under the guise that that's going to help you, which it does, but maybe not for the reasons that they think. At least in part, getting people to feel like an actual emergency is going on when you're training them in emergency preparedness helps them, not only because they will feel like they're in emergency at the time, but because you create more lasting memories when you're in that mode, when you're scared as fuck, when you're having to like do all this other stuff. And so like when you're challenged like that, that leaves more lasting memories. So you're going to remember the class, you're going to remember the principles, all that better. And that's going to be more quickly accessible when you're then again in that situation where things are going crazy. And it's like, I remember when it was crazy last time, this is where my brain went and here's what we have to do. You're more comfortable with that. Now, that's going to help you in that one very specific scenario if we assume that learned experience helps. And I think this is something he'll probably get to in the middle part of the book. But this is like, for some things, experience doesn't help you. Depending on how random your job is, just because you went to one job before or another job in the past doesn't mean that those are going to like help you moving forward. Just because you put out a fire in one home and it worked this way doesn't mean that you get any experience that's going to be applicable to the next fire that you fight, right? And it's funny that I use that example because I think firefighters are one of the specialized groups. But anywho, yeah, a lot of cool stuff. Chapter 1. I don't know what else. What else we should get into here? You guys got any thoughts on that or anything that I didn't explain super well that I should clarify before we move on? What do you guys think? I need some water to make sure my voice doesn't go out today. Also, it looks like the color balance on this camera really is messed up because this doesn't look like how it's supposed to look. I do think that I probably have too much light. Oh, well, that's much better. I mean, it looks more green, I think. What about challenging yourself on a physical level? I don't know if this is a dumb question. I don't know. The book doesn't talk about things in terms of like physical versus mental challenges. So I don't know. It doesn't make a distinction in the book, so I wouldn't know how to handle it. But yeah, because you're dealing with a whole other thing. I think the book is talking about your brain and how like you need to train things for your brain. In terms of like your muscles and your body, I'm sure those work by by different mechanisms, right? So I think whatever answers we take for one may not be applicable to the other. Okay. Well, I think I'll go ahead and make sure that I've hit all of the notes that I want to do. Again, this was just meant to be a very short book club, and unfortunately, I'm sorry, viewers and listeners. My notes. I'm the notes guy, and my notes suck this time around. They were not helpful at all. Like I have quotes in here that I put in quotation marks that fucking don't correspond to anything in the book. Like they're not word for word the way that they're supposed to. And I have no way of going back in the book and finding them. Is it just me or does it feel like the light's way off now? Oh! I'm sure this camera is auto-correcting stuff and it's not working out for me. Let's see here. Because doesn't playing music help deter mental illnesses? Yeah, but what does that have to do with physical stuff? I'm confused. So most learned experiences and such specialized training will only be useful in certain specific. Yes, yes. And if you are somebody who's in a general, why is the color is way off? Lighting looks fine. No, it doesn't. Why it looks so weird to me. It looks like the color of the light. I don't know. Look, it changed again. The camera randomly is doing things. I'm colorblind, by the way. Me too, bro, but I can see it's fucked. Oh no. What is going on? I need help with lights. I need to call in a favor. I need somebody to come over here and help me with my fucking lights. Like stuff that are challenging physically have real effects on memory. Okay. You look great, my dude. Awesome, but my lighting does not. I don't know, Exver. I mean, maybe if like I tried to make you learn something and I like put a weight on your back and made it hard to breathe, maybe that would make you like remember stuff better. I don't know. Okay, so let me make sure again that from my shitty fucking notes that I'm disappointed are not very good. Let me see if there's anything else we can discuss. Otherwise, I gotta wait for the book to come. And if you guys don't have the book and you want to like take this as seriously as I will next week, here you go. We're going to read up to chapter 4. That is my affiliate link, so if you buy it through that link, I guess it helps me. The audiobook is just not fucking sufficient for the purpose. I definitely need quotes. I need bookmarks. I need all sorts of things that I'm not getting out of this audiobook. I thought it would be possible, but it's not. What I will say, though, and this is to save what may in the future be an Audible sponsorship. What I will say about audiobooks is they are helpful for trying things out or for just consuming them, but I don't think they're good for critically analyzing them because they're not built to do that. They're not built to be easily referenceable. And if they are, it's in a system that has to be different than everything else you have. Like you're going to have to use their weird number system and stuff. Might end up just buying the book. Really wasn't a fan of the audiobook format. I mean, like, I like the dude that's reading it, but yeah, Epstein is the author. Didn't he kill himself? Wrong Epstein, but yeah, I think that dude did kill himself. Anywho, banned memes, dude, banned memes. It's strange to think Federer. Okay, blah blah blah. Yeah. Because that'll also give me the opportunity to look up a lot of these studies and give that to you guys. I think that would make the next book club kind of more fun. How long have I even been live? Anybody got an uptime for me? I don't imagine it's been very long. It felt like it's been very, very short. Yeah, it's 12:17. An hour and 20 minutes. You know, it was only 2 hours of reading, so, you know, if it's only like 2 hours of audiobook, there's only so much you can do. I know that Epstein has often been critical of Gladwell, and I came in when you were mentioning Gladwell in terms of him leaving out sources that disagree with the story he wants to tell, but it seems like there could be a lot to learn in terms of rhetoric from Gladwell as he convinces. Yeah, sure, but that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. That'd be like if I'm like, you know, yeah, I disagree a lot with Donald Trump because I think a lot of his policies are hurting the same American people that he says he wants to help by making the country great again. I think this return to some amorphous idea of greatness without any like clear terms to you know, describe it is worrying, especially when you combine that with like the people that you know, have signed up for that without any such idea. And then you're like, yeah, but like, you know, Trump convinced a lot of people with that make America great again stuff. So, I mean, maybe there's something to look like. Yeah, but not at all related to what I was talking about. But for sure, maybe. Like, this isn't about rhetoric, to be clear. We're not talking about rhetoric with this book. We're talking about the book itself. And yeah, no, when we're talking about Gladwell and I'm criticizing him, that's what I'm criticizing him for. It'd be like if I was criticizing it'd be like if Mike Tyson was a wife beater and I'm like, yeah, that Mike Tyson guy, I don't like that he beats his wife. And then you're like, yeah, but I'll tell you what, he can fucking have a hell of a fight. I've seen him in the ring, and it's like, okay. But, yeah, he's a fucking boxer. In much the same way that Gladwell is a best-selling New York Times whatever the fuck author. Like, yeah, that's what he does. I'm saying he's shitty at presenting research in his books, and he leaves out like a portion, a yang of things that I think helps people to actually come to understanding in their books. And that's mostly where the criticism is. So the rhetoric thing has nothing to do with it, in my opinion. I love books for, as you said, referencing stuff, and audiobooks for fiction and fantasy stuff. Check DMs real quick. Okay. Sorry to interrupt your flow. No, you're good. Well, I think we're at the end of this anyways. Oh, shit. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I can do it. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, good thing we're at the end of the stream. Okay. I have stuff I gotta go do, guys. I'm sorry. Supreme is robbing me from you guys. Supreme has made a call to action that I simply cannot ignore. I just got back from my phone call. I'll have to catch the bod. I'm with the science team. Have you read Carol Dweck's book, the one about learning? I get recommended it a lot. Maybe that'll be another book club item that we'll do. Maybe after this. I'm going to open the floor to recommendations near the end of this book club series once we get closer to like chapter 10 because the book only goes up to chapter 12. But yeah, so that's what we'll do. We'll definitely open the floor to other suggestions and go with more like 5-head shit. And we may even make this book club every 2 weeks, and then at the end of every 2 weeks, we'll just finish a whole fucking book because I read books like crazy. Please do. Okay, awesome. I like your hair. Thank you. This has been Book Smarts. If you guys want to support the channel, there is a Patreon link. I want to take a minute to let this play. There are 2 other people who need to be in the givers category here who get honored. Everybody who spends $10 on the Patreon is able to be in this. And then if you spend 20, you get the separate, acknowledgement that'll come right after this one. The other 2 people who need to be on this that I haven't edited in yet are Nicholas Swider and Eric Galvin. Thank you guys for joining today, or I guess technically both of you were yesterday. I really appreciate it. Everybody is pushing that, to get a little bit farther. They pay out much better than Twitch. Twitch will take half of whatever you guys pay for Prime or whatever. So the Patreon is like a more realistic long-term solution to like make this financially viable. Boy, what a sentence that was. Anywho, that's where you can support me. You could do the Amazon Prime, the Patreon, whatever. And then, I'll see you guys next time. I think we'll probably do this again in maybe a week or 2, and we'll do chapters 2 through 4. Here is the link one more time to go ahead and purchase that book on Amazon if you want to. That's my affiliate link. It'll give me a kickback for every book that's sold. If you guys want to do that, that's great. I'll be buying it right after this and then taking notes and hopefully having a more in-depth thing next time. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your week. And, I'll update the Discord with the next show, whenever that'll be. The Discord in hashtag updates, the channel hashtag updates, that's the main place where I'll post when we're going to be doing stuff, aside from the Twitter. So if you're not already a part of the Discord, do ! Discord. If you're not already a part of the Twitter, ! Twitter, or just look up Book Smarts on Twitter. That'd be great. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one. YouTube chat, you guys don't have those commands. I'll set up Nightbot for it and figure it out. But have a good one, everybody. That should be on my About page for you guys on the YouTuber. Yeah. See you later. Have a good one. Oh, shit. Wait, I need to raid. Hold on. I need to raid. Raid. Who are we raiding into?
The first match, I think, indefinitely would be. I think
Why
it's
does
against,
Melina have so
Novak.
many?
It's gonna
Why does
be very
Melina have so many people watching her right now? Venice Beach, California. Oh, is she with Destiny? No, she's not. I don't think so. Weird. Let's raid Lumi Roo. She's up. I don't think I've raided her before. /raid Lumi Roo. Hopefully that works. Is that rating? Here, let's see. Because I'm using Restream, so I don't know.
Let's see.
Because
Oh, it is.
I'm using Restream, so I don't
All right,
know.
awesome. I'll see you guys later.